guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Ep10 of ASMR Money Mentor. We're still talking about thriving on a modest income because that's what I had over all of these years, is a modest income. So today I want to move on and talk about the basic building blocks that I learned in 2006. And I've got a news flash for all of you. Personal finance is not complicated. I never had a never had a financial advisor. Some people may want a financial advisor, and that's fine. You can certainly find good financial advisors. Make sure, though, if you hire one, that you do. They're based on the time that you spend with them, so maybe a consultation fee. I don't really believe in assets under management, although I'll talk about my Vanguard funds where they are being managed right now. That'll be for later episodes when I get into more details of what I've done over the past 15 or 18 years. For those of you that are new to my channel, thank you so much for being here. For those of you that are coming back, thank you for coming back, and please hit that like button right now. Hit that like button and subscribe to my channel as well. I would love to spread this message of frugality and modest income-based wealth building, which is what this is all about. I'm never going to talk about risky investments. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a money mentor, a money coach. I love to talk to people about money, and anonymously, as you can see, I like to share what I've done over these many years. Now, I hope you guys had a great day. Before we get into the episode, I do have some chamomile tea. You know, maybe you guys are suffering financially. If you are, my heart goes out to you. Keep coming back. I was a financial train wreck in my 20s and my 30s. Didn't get things going until really age 40, which is what this week's episodes are all about. In 2006, I was broke at 40 years old, and I woke up. I looked in the mirror, and I said, I'm going to do something about this. I also shared with you in the last episode that my income, very modest. In 18 to 20 years, I was only making about $4,000 or $5,000 more per year. That is really sustainable if you think about it. And I talked about wealth being very relative, that most of us make a lot of income, or relatively, I should say, a lot of income. I don't know what the average salary and income is in the United States, but I don't know, I think I heard it was maybe 40, 50,000, somewhere in there for a household. And yes, I know many of you have expenses with children, and other things that can come up. Some of you might have a dual income, though. You've got dual incomes coming in, which is great, which is more than I ever had. I was still able to build a $1.5 million net worth in about 18 years. In 2024, that's where I said, for those of you that are just joining me, new to ASMR Money Mentor, I like to talk to people about money. And so in today's episode, 26, 27, 28. And then I had a bankruptcy, as you guys know, at age 29. We don't have to go back there right now. We're moving on. And when I was 40 in 2006, I learned about the basic building blocks, remember, from watching the Susie Orman show. Now, the first thing you should do, which you all know, make sure you have an emergency fund. You have a job. You've got expenses. Maybe there's not much wiggle room. You've got to get those expenses down. One of the ways to build wealth, obviously for me, was to get my expenses down as low as I could possibly get them. So that represents you right now. And it may try to get those expenses down in whatever year you're in right now. We're in 2024. You might be watching this in 2030. But if you're watching this right now and you are thinking that you have to get to the basic building blocks and your expenses are really high, get those paid down. Now you guys know that for me, and I'm going to use these words a little bit carefully, I got lucky. I don't know, that's not the right word. A lot of my debt, the $40,000 of debt that I had, was eliminated in my bankruptcy. And you guys know that bankruptcy for me was the most devastating thing that ever happened. So I'm not saying that you guys should go bankrupt, not at all. I'm saying that for me, it gave me a clean slate. I had no debt at that point. It took another 10 years before I had wiggle room in my budget to save and invest. And if you don't think 10 years is a long time, think about it. It really is. And so, in 2006, I got my emergency fund up to a certain dollar amount. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't remember exactly what that was. I shared with you previously, I have another channel on YouTube called The Frugal Millionaire. And there was an episode that I produced where I talk about, I had a whiteboard, and I was saying that I got my emergency fund up to a certain dollar amount. And I had somebody, a subscriber, made a comment and said, most people can't get their emergency fund up to whatever I got it up to. And to be honest, I don't remember what it was. I do write everything down, as you know, in my planners, and I journal. And I like to write everything down. And I also remember hearing, and you guys may have heard this as well, that, how does that saying go? Something about luck and preparation have to come together, that you position yourself for success. I'm totally screwing that up. But yes, it has to do with luck, but it also has to do with how did you position yourself somewhere to be open shared that with you guys before. I'm not saying that's going to be your journey towards financial independence, but you have to commit to yourself, as I talked about a couple days ago, that you need to get a little more increases every single year. Now, how you do that is up to you, but you need to commit to doing that, either through the company that you're with and the income that you have, or with other companies. That is imperative. Income is your greatest tool to build wealth. Now, in 2006, then, the emergency fund was very important, so I got it up to let's just say $10,000. As luck would have it, I never lost my job. Awesome. But when you look at my past, I don't know if I shared this with you before, but out of college, when I was 24 years old, of course I made mistakes. 5 years of, spending at the mall. I, racked up $40,000 to $50,000 worth of credit card debt. I had, 10 years or more of getting a job, losing a job, getting a job, losing a job, getting a job, losing a job. This went on for years. It really did a lot to my self-esteem. It did such bad things to my self-esteem that I really felt like I wasn't worthy of a good job. When I think back to those years, I didn't think I was worthy. So maybe some of you think that you're not worthy as well, but you know what? I have to say, you are, and you can, and you will build wealth as long as you master these basic building blocks. And for me, in 2006, number one was I got the emergency fund up so that if I lost my job, I would have something to fall back on. There's two more basic building blocks that I want to talk about in this episode. Now, remember a minute ago, I said these are things that you know, but we have to hear them. I was with a company, still with a company, that I have a 401k. Awesome. If you guys are self-employed, then you may not have that, but you have other things you can put your money into. So in 1998, when I joined the company, I of course opened up my 401k. I remember meeting with our financial advisor that we had through whatever company it was. I don't remember. Not Fidelity, it was some other company. What was it? The custodian for our 401k. And I sat down with this guy. He was an older guy. He looked like he was about to retire. And I remember he did a risk tolerance test for me. And he then recommended, what mutual funds I should put my money into. I just did what he said. I didn't know what I was doing. And remember I said before, sometimes it's okay if you don't know exactly what mutual funds to put your money into, as long as they're broad-based, low-cost index funds. Then you'll be good. And I put in 3%. It may have been, no, it was 3%. I think that was the match back then. Now it's 6%. But back then, he told me that if I put the money up to 3%, then the company would match me. I think it was 50% or something. I don't even know that at 32 I really understood what he was saying. I was still really, really young, obviously, right? And I had another 8 years before I even got to 2006 and really started thinking about personal finance. So luckily I did that, but here's the reality, is that when I was putting in 3% of my salary, how much was I making in 2006? $40,000. 123 times 0.03. So I was putting in $1,200 a year into my 401k. For those first, several years. And what was my company giving me? I don't know. A little bit of money on top of that into these accounts. I remember thinking that by putting in that $1,200 a year, and by the way, I didn't know it was $1,200 a year because I was still not understanding all of this. Later, I would learn that you should put in the total dollar amount into your 401k that the government says you can put into it, right? I you guys to think the same way. There's a dollar amount. Google it right now and you'll see exactly how much you can put into a 401k. For me, I think it's $30,000 right now because I was over 50 or am over 50. So you have catch-up contributions. It might be $24,000 for people that are under 50. Anyway, I don't want to get into the details of how much it is right now. I just know that back in 2006, my thought process was that 3% could make me really wealthy someday. I had a lot to learn. That is so not true. It's good, but it's not great, and I wanted to be great with money. So 3%, I remember, okay, great. I told the guy, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll put in 3%. Well, do you think $1,200 a year at age 40 is going to make you wealthy? At age 58, where I am now, absolutely not. I don't even want to do the math right now, but if I only put in 3% of my salary, even though my salary was going up 2 to 3% per year, I would not have $1.5 million right now in a net worth. So, but for those of you that are just starting out, get your emergency fund, contribute to your 401k match. Contribute to your 401k up to the match. Now here's a concept that I want to talk about, and since we're running out of time, I'm going to save my next building block for the next episode, but I'm going to wrap up this episode now, and I want to talk about, again, these basic building blocks. They have to be met, and you have to do automatic contributions. That's what I want you to understand, is that you need to be putting in automatic contributions to your 401k, automatic contributions into your emergency fund if you're still building an emergency fund. And what I want to end with today for basic building blocks, and again, I'm going to reserve number 3 for in a couple days, so please come back. It was one of the most important ones of the 3. I want to share with you that when you're building your blocks, these basic building blocks, they are sequential. One of the skills of building wealth is that you need to know where you are in the year that you're in and what you need to put your money into in the year that you're in. And you don't forget what you did the next year. The subsequent year, you continue to do what you did in the previous year, and you build onto it. That's what a building block is all about. Most people forget that they did this over here and that they need to continue doing it over here. And you're not going to build wealth if you continue to vacillate between those things. If those shiny objects come into your life that I talked about before, that entice you, the 2-bedroom condo that I talked about that I really wanted, if I would have done that, that would have had serious ramifications on the wealth that I built today. I wouldn't have been able to do that. Those shiny objects get in the way. So we'll talk more about sequential. But one of the biggest things you need to know is that you have to know, again, exactly where you are and what you need to do in the year that you're